All right, we're back here at Song of the Day, coming to you from the Rock Cave. As usual, I'm your host, Mark Pierce. Today is Wednesday, June 3rd. Hard to ignore what's going on in America this week. I've been a little distracted this morning and last night as far as trying to think about Song of the Day. Lots going on out there, and a lot to take in. Anyway, so I didn't have a song of the day when I woke up this morning, but it's Wednesday. I remembered it's Wednesday, and we skipped it last week because I forgot it was Wednesday last week. But on Wednesdays we are doing either songs from a band that you know that you've never heard before, or a band you've never heard before, or both. I had a lot to choose from. I have a huge list to choose from as far as that's concerned. So I went through a few different ones, but I finally settled on this one. But along my travels in the last few days, just reading the news and reading about music and everything, I was reminded of a song on a separate note by Nina Simone called Mississippi Goddamn. If you don't know that song, check it out. There's a live performance that she does that can't be missed. Anyway, the band we're going with today is called The Call. And for me, personally, I think that The Call was a big band. Like, they were popular and had a lot of great music. And some of you out there might even know who they are and might say the same thing. Like, yeah, I love The Call. But I don't know if I know anyone that was a Call fan, really, very much. So in my mind, I feel like they were a much overlooked band. With a lot of great records, a lot of great songs. So tell me if you heard of them, or at least if you're a fan or you remember them, because I'd like to know that piece of it, because for me, I'm a huge fan, and particularly a huge fan of two of their records. But let's talk about who they are. They are a band that was formed in 1980 in Santa Cruz, California. They put out 9 albums in 20 years. When they put out their debut album, in 81, 82, right around there, Peter Gabriel got to listen to it, and he basically loved it so much that he said they were the future of music, and had them open up for his tour in 82, 83. I was introduced to The Call, one song by The Call, in 82, and that was because of MTV. As you guys know, I had MTV then, and that was a huge influence on my musical tastes, and that song was The Walls Came Down, and that was heavily played on MTV, and that was a great song. And then I forgot about them after that song. I didn't really know much about them. Fast forward to 1988. I'm in college, and Dan Lawson, younger than me, from California, introduces me to this album and says, hey, do you know who The Call is? You got to hear this album. And I had remembered that song, but I hadn't heard anything about them since. So we picked up that album, and that was an album put out in 85 called Reconciled, and that album just blew me away. It was just amazing, and to this day it's an album that I can play front to back, every single song. It would be hard for me to pick a favorite song on there. It's so good. And to this day, I will still listen to it. So that's where the credit goes on that. Reconciled was in between their album Modern Romans, and I think they put one other out after that didn't go anywhere. But they didn't have a record contract for 2 years. They finally get that settled. They put out this Reconciled album, and the artists that are guest artists on there are Peter Gabriel, Jim Kerr from Simple Minds, and Robbie Robertson from the band. That album has the main song that anyone might know from them is I Still Believe. That's the song from that album that people would know. And the reason why they would know that probably is because the year after that, 86, that was used in the band The Lost Boys. Now, Sarah and I talk about this a lot. She likes Tim Cappello's version better than the Call's version, and there's some validity to that argument. It's pretty rare that you have a remake like so close that you think you like the other one better. But of course, this guy was very muscular. He wasn't wearing a shirt, and he belted out this saxophone like crazy. And I love that version. I think I like both versions equally, but Tim Cappello's version is pretty damn good. If you don't remember that, you got to check it out. Maybe that'll be one of the ones I post, because I'm going to post several in the thread below. But that album, I mean, I can't even pick a track to pick out my favorite, but Everywhere I Go, Blood Red. It's a very that song I'll put there because that's kind of fitting now. The Morning, Oklahoma, With or Without Reason, Sanctuary. Even Now, Tore the Old Place Down. I mean, it's the whole album, basically. That is the whole album. Great album. Then, of all people, my mother says to me in '89, hey, I love this new album by this band, The Call, because I didn't know it had come out. And I was like, I love The Call. I love that album. So I played that album. And that album also had the song Let the Day Begin. That was the name of the album, Let the Day Begin. And if you remember, Al Gore used that as his campaign song. But Let the Day Begin, also a great album. It has You Run, Surrender, and Closer. These are all kind of slower songs, but another great album. They put out other albums. I mean, that was basically their heyday right there. They did put some other albums out. They broke up in 2010. The lead singer died in 2010, Michael Bean. His son, Robert Levon Bean, I assume named after Levon Helm. He was in the Black Rebel Motorcycle Club. That was his band that he founded. So anyway, they had a following for that whole time, and I don't know if anyone here remembers them, but I would like to hear that. I am gonna post a bunch of different songs under here, just so you get a little taste of his voice and their music. I was gonna go with, if I had to go with one song, I guess it's gonna have to be "The Walls Came Down." It's from their most political album, Modern Romans. Seemed appropriate for today. But you'll see some other choices there too. So that's your song of the day. It's The Call. The Walls Came Down. We'll see you on the flip side.